Hi, welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. I am super excited today because we are launching a brand new video series called Boost My Build. What is Boost My Build all about? Well, it's about taking your part list and your builds and improving them. Why are we doing this? Well, it used to be when the channel was much smaller, I'd have so many people comment and put down a PC part picker list, and I'd go through in PC part picker and I'd improve their list. I'd boost their build and I'd send it back to them with my recommendations, and people loved it. But as the channel's grown, that's become increasingly hard to do. It's hard enough just to keep up with all the comments, and I do read all the comments. So thank you very much for leaving a comment down below as well as a like. And we're going to take a variety of use cases from gaming to productivity. We're going to take a variety of budget levels, and we're going to focus on just a couple of things in each build, and we're going to go rapid fire through this. So with that, I have just a couple of ground rules. Number one, everybody's at a different skill level in terms of PC building, so we're not going to make fun of anybody who submits a build list. Nobody is to make fun of anybody down in the comments. We're all going to learn together. So these folks have been courageous and submitted their list. We really appreciate that, and we're going to work together to learn and to boost their builds. The second thing is I'd love for you to post what you would have done differently from me in each of these circumstances. And I'll leave a link down to each of the builds that we worked on and what my recommendations were. And maybe you can post a PC part picker list on what you would do differently. I just find it really interesting getting community feedback and how people would build things differently. So with that, let's jump into this. Okay, here we go. Let's grab a build. We're going to start off at the bottom of the list. These are people who submitted first. I've gone through a couple of these. I really like this one. This is Max David. Max David, his intended use for this PC is high FPS gaming. So let's start off with a gaming build. Budget's $2,000. With GPU prices skyrocketing, he doesn't know how he's going to build a PC. That's the same thing for everybody, right? So let's take a quick look. What do we got here for? Now I noticed you don't have a couple of things in here, like you don't have your memory in here. We'll go ahead and fix that. But you got a 5900X to start off with in a gaming build. First of all, 5900X is really hard to get still. I would go with a 5600X. They were just in stock on Amazon yesterday at MSRP. I think they're selling for like 20 or 30 bucks over right now through a third-party seller, but they are coming in and out of stock. So you could just set up an alert and probably get one. I almost bought a couple yesterday. Water cooled, yeah, you don't, especially if you go with a 3600, you definitely don't, not 36, the 5600X, you definitely don't need a water cooler. We could definitely save some money there because we want to afford this graphics card. Motherboard's great, MSI B550 gaming edge Wi-Fi. You got 2 by 8 gigabytes of DDR4 3600 CL16, so 16 gigabytes total, perfectly fine. Your drive, too expensive. Samsung 970 EVO Plus for gaming. No. This is like high-end production workloads. You don't want to drive like that. You're looking for a Silicon Power A60, Western Digital SN550, a Crucial P1, those types of drives, Kingston A2000, that level of drive, and you're going to save yourself like 60 bucks here. But the biggest challenge I think you're going to have is your graphics card. If you're going to go for a 3080 and a 3080 alone, you're going to be waiting a long time. As I've said in previous videos on how to get a GPU, the problem with 3080s is that they are effectively, there's two ways a 3080 comes into being. They all start off in life as a 3090 die, and either the 3090 die is defective and they cut down some of the cores into make a 3080, or in regular market conditions, they wouldn't be able to sell enough 3090s, and they would cut down perfectly good 3090s to a 3080 in order to sell it at a lower price point. But the market's insane, and so the only 3080s you're getting right now are the defective ones, the defective 3090s. They're not cutting down regular 3090s because they can sell them all. And why wouldn't they? So I would expand your search to a 3090 or a 3070 as well as a 3080. I have a feeling the 3080s are going to be completely off the market once the 3080 Ti comes out. I think they're going to make them all 3080 Ti's, and it's just their way of raising MSRP, but that's for another day, right? Those are the things I would change. Expand your graphics card selection, right size your SSD, and I would right size the processor for sure. And you could even, staying with the 240 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler is fine. But you could definitely reduce a little bit of expense here by going with something cheaper as well. Just scrolling through the list here, we got a competitive Call of Duty player who also streams their gameplay. They need a beefy computer to do that. Their budget's $3,500. Now that's Canadian. So let's see what we got here. So this is all in Canadian dollars, which is great. So let's see here. The 5900X, definitely, definitely a processor we can work with. I think it can be a little too expensive. Because again, we need to afford our graphics card, just like the last build. I think you want a 3900 or a 3090 or an RTX 3070. Again, same problem with the 3080s. It's just, you're not just going to find any in stock. So I would look at a 3070. Remember, 3070 is equivalent to a 2080 Ti. That's a perfectly great card. And in fact, it's a little bit better in some cases than a 2080 Ti. I'd notice here you got the G-Skills, the DDR4 4000 CL16. That is super good memory, but it's also stupid expensive memory. And looking at our budget here, you said $3,500 total. You've only left yourself $1,300 for the graphics card. I know, like in any other market, like $1,300 is a whole computer. But in this market, $1,300, especially if you get unlucky and you're not able to get something through regular channels, if you want to go eBay or, you know, I'm not telling you to do that, but if you people are doing it because it's been a zillion months at this point, and I get it. People are fed up with waiting. Then you're going to need some more money to get something like 3070. The way you're going to get there is I would right size some of this stuff. I'd consider a 5800X instead. That'll save you some money. I like this liquid cooler, and you definitely don't want noise when you're streaming at the same time. You don't want a noisy PC. So I'm going to leave this one alone, but I think you could probably find a cheaper all-in-one liquid cooler, unless of course this is also for display purposes in your stream. We all do that, right? The one thing I think you are going to have a problem with is you have an ASUS TUF Gaming X570 Plus. The problem is, first of all, you don't need X570, but that's not the problem with this board. The problem with this board, it doesn't have BIOS flashback. So if you get a board where it's not going to work out of the box with Ryzen 5000, you're either going to need a Ryzen 3000 CPU to flash it, or you're going to have to take it to a shop to get flash, and that's just a pain in the butt. I'd strongly recommend you look at getting the ASUS TUF. If you like ASUS and you like the TUF Gaming line, the B550 Plus Wi-Fi is a fantastic motherboard. It's one of my best Ryzen 5000 motherboards. Video I just did. I'll put a link up in the description up there. Otherwise, I think this build looks pretty good. I would ditch the Samsung 980 Pro. It's just stupidly expensive. You know, if we wanted to go for something, I mean, even like I'm just without even sorting the Crucial P1. I mean, there's a lot of other drives that you could put in here where you will never see the difference between that unless you're doing some super high-end production workloads. And you probably save yourself $100 towards a better graphics card here, $100 Canadian, that is. Similarly, I think your power supply is probably overkill here. Check out my video on how to size your power supply, how to get the right power supply. You're at 551 watts here. That's only about 750. 850 is not terrible, but again, the problem is miners are buying up all these higher end power supplies, higher capacity power supplies, because they want something that'll run like, you know, a zillion graphics cards on their mining bench, right? And as a result, a lot of these power supplies are super inflated right now. That's why right now is probably more than ever, right size your power supply, save yourself a ton of money because miners are driving up the prices on there. That's what I would take a look at. So maybe come down the processor, maybe come down the memory to 3600 CL16, right size your SSD here, and possibly right size your power supply. That's going to help you get the graphics card you need for the streaming power that you're looking for. Okay, now let's jump into one that's maybe more productivity focused, and we've got the EndNote. They say that this build will be primarily for split screen video editing as well as music recording and production, and a little bit of gaming here and there, and their budget's $1,200. It's not a lot of money to spend on a high-end machine, but in normal times, at least, you can put together a rig that will do really well for amateur level stuff. So let's see what we've got here. Ooh, this is a little spicy. We got an Intel system for productivity. So right there, I'm gonna just we'll push the pause button almost, right? I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right off the bat, I would not build an Intel system for productivity. Just wouldn't do it. Look, there's nothing wrong with an i7-10700K, objectively, but for the $320 you're going to spend, you could get a Ryzen 3700X. Frankly, a 5600X would also be very good, but I'd go 3700X here, 8 cores, 16 threads, beats the pants off the 10700K. And we can use the included box cooler. We don't have to get an aftermarket cooler because it comes with the Ray Stealth. In fact, let's just do that. And then, of course, you can also get a much cheaper motherboard as well because your budget is only $1,200. So you don't want to overspend on key components. If you had a ton of money, then this wouldn't matter as much, but you're budget limited. So we're just going to jump in and fix this real quick. Fix it, quote unquote. We're going to go with, well, first I got to make sure I can edit this build. So edit this part list. This is a US part list. We're just going to dump the motherboard, because otherwise what'll happen is we try and change platforms. It'll force us using the compatibility filter, and we don't want that. So we're going to ditch that. We're going to 3700X, $308 right now. That's so freaking cheap, man. Let's go ahead and add one of those in. We're going to use the included Wraith Spire Stealth Prism cooler, one of those Wraith coolers that comes with it. So we're going to ditch the Cooler Master. Look at that. We just saved ourselves a ton of money. Motherboard, well, you don't need much of a motherboard to run this. Now you want to do music production, so you probably want to get something with like an ALC 1220 audio codec on it, which is that it's good for high impedance headphones. So let's see what we've got in the B550 range. I think we're going to end up going with is, now you could go, this has I believe a 1200 codec. That would probably work with the ASRock B550M Pro 4. This is to me the best budget B550 motherboard out there for Ryzen 5000 or Ryzen 3000, frankly. Ryzen 5000, if you can get one with a correct BIOS. That's the big challenge with it. Let's sort these by price real quick. I don't know, you may not be able to see the prices on the right here. They've got a BIOS sort board. These are just boards you want to avoid. The B550M is fine, but again, we're doing music production, so let's get something with good onboard audio, and eventually you'll graduate to using like a DAC, right? But for now, let's get something we know is going to have good audio on it. We're going to go with the cheap option, since we can't find anything in stock right now that would be, there it is. We're going to go with the Pro 4. Again, one of the best budget motherboards on the market for Ryzen 3000 or Ryzen 5000. Again, does not have BIOS flashback, so you got to be careful with it. 32 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 CL16 is all you need. You don't need super fast memory for this. You're really not going to see the difference. You want more memory, and you definitely want 32 gigs. And that's the place to start, is a 2x16 kit, because you can always buy another one, and then you have 64 gigs working in there. Again, you've got a $1,200 budget. We got to stick with the budget. Don't need the Samsung 970 EVO 500. Absolutely do not need. Look at 500 gigs for $115. No, 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 no. Let's right size your drive, man. Watch this. We're going to come down here. This is how you use PC Partpicker. So you come down here, you type in the capacity. I'm going to go ahead and type in 900 here, and SSD. Now you can also make it an M.2 instead. We're going to look down here. Now I've cheated, and I've starred drives that I would get. I'd go Silicon Power A60. Some people don't like that. Some people want the Western Digital. I don't even see the Western Digital. Kingston A2000 is another kind of prosumer level drive. Let's go ahead and add that guy in there. And, we saved ourselves $10 and we doubled our memory capacity. Boom. Let's go with that. I don't really care for a 1 terabyte hard drive for $40. Frankly, I would just go ahead and invest a little bit more and make this a 2 terabyte drive, but we'll stick it out with this. You're going to go with the GTX 1650. Let me tell you why you want the 1650 Super. It's got a better encoder on it. And I think it uses the newer encoder, and the 1650 is still on the older architecture. Again, I know these cards are stupid expensive. They're like $400 or $500 right now, but that's why we're going to save you some money so you can go out and get that. I don't mind the case. I actually used to recommend this case quite a bit because it comes with 4 included fans, and they're RGB, and it looks just really cool as well. And frankly, for $65, I'm not gonna beat you up with the case. I really do like that case, so let's stay with that. I think this is fine for a power supply. You probably don't need it. I mean, my goodness, we could get away with something a lot smaller than that, but this is $50. It's on the C tier, but that's okay. So this is where I'd go with your build right now. Now we're at $839. That should give you the $400 to $500 you need in order to get this GTX 1650 Super and get video editing. Okay, now we're going to find another one. Oh, if you put World of Warcraft in the title, then I'm a sucker for World of Warcraft. Been playing it forever. Let's do this one. Gaming mostly, World of Warcraft, F1 2020, 2021, budget's around €1,000. We're going to go ahead and look at their build. Interestingly enough, they actually use the US PC Partpicker. Now, just so you know, if you're in another market, you can go to PC Partpicker, and all you want to do up here at the top is you want to click on this, and you just want to pick your country. And PC Partpicker pulls prices from all over the world, from all kinds of different retailers, not just US retailers. But because they submitted the list in the US one, we're not gonna modify the whole thing. Really interesting. We're going Intel here, but we got an i5-11500. I'm not really sure why we're doing that, but we're doing that. And of course, we got a Be Quiet Pure Rock Slim. That's a really great budget cooler. We got an Asus Prime B560M. That's a B560M micro ATX motherboard. It's a perfectly fine motherboard. 16 gigs of DDR4 3600 CL18. That's fine. Got a Silicon Power A80 as a M.2. You're going for RX 5600 XE. Now I notice there's no prices here. I'm going to assume you've already purchased this because again, we're not going to do the graphics card on every build because that's all we would do given the market. Corsair 4000D airflow case. I really like this case. I like the white version, but the black version's also awesome. And you got a Corsair CXM 650. Now you said yours is about 1,000 euros, and I think that's got to be about 1,200 USD. So I'm going to assume that you already got the graphics card, and let's just assume that the motherboard is going to cost us, this is about a $120 motherboard. So that leaves us with roughly what, $300 left. What would I do? What do I do to improve your build? First is I ditched the i5-11500. It's just kind of an odd processor to pick. I would get, unless for your market, you can't get an i5-11400, I would then take a look at a 10600K. That's about the same price at $220 as the 11.5 here. And there's going to be a better performing CPU. I just think you can save a little bit of money. And if you're going to save that money, I'd dump the rest of it into probably a better motherboard. Although I will say that I'm a little disappointed with the B560 motherboards because they don't have very good audio codecs until you spend a lot of money on the motherboard. It's a little disappointing. Overall, I think this is a really good build. If I was going to up anything here, though, I would definitely take the rest of your budget and dump it into a better CPU. You could definitely get a 10600 or even 11600K here and do really, really well for an Intel build. You would then need to change the cooler because as much as I like the Be Quiet Pure Rock Slim, it definitely does not have the cooling capacity for something like a 10600K. You could probably get away with it, but I would just put something a little beefier on it like a Scythe Fuma 2 or, gosh, even you could look at some of the 240 millimeter all-in-one liquid coolers. So that's where I would take a look at improving this build. Otherwise, I think the drive is fine. I think the memory is fine. I think that's definitely I believe a B or a C tier power supply, which is perfectly fine for this kind of build. And the other thing you might think about doing is just getting yourself a better monitor. I don't mind this Philips. I'm not that familiar with it, but I certainly know for like, $50 more, we could walk away with a much better 27-inch 1080p monitor, or even starting to think about a 24-inch 1440p monitor. So tell me what you thought of the series. What would you have done differently than me in each of those builds? Do you think I'm crazy on some of these things? Tell me down in the comments. Also, if you like the video, remember to give it a like. And of course, if you want more of this kind of content, subscribe, because this is what we do here. And we're just about to hit 25,000 subscribers as I'm filming this video. Tell me what you thought of the video series. Is this something I should continue? Should I look to do other things? Or do you want more of this kind of stuff? Really, really helps me out. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.